Hello, everybody. Hello, welcome. Happy Tuesday. We're in first month of 2023. So happy and excited to be here with you guys. Thanks for joining me. I got a whole bunch of experts here with me that I'm so honored to have in this live webinar. We're going live on Facebook, Carlos Cruz Realtor Facebook. We're going live on Instagram, and we are also going live on YouTube. So this is a great opportunity to kind of touch up on the market. We're starting a new year, and a lot of people are wondering what's going to happen, with the market, with the rates, and all of that. So I thought, why not go live with a bunch of people that I trust, that they do excellent jobs with their clients and everything. So without further ado, let me introduce the people here. So I got myself, Carlos Cruz Realtor with Austin 101 Realty. You've seen me before. And I have Jason Giroux he's a realtor in Phoenix, Arizona. Welcome, Jason. How are you?
Good, Carlos. Thanks for having me. Excited to be doing this.
Awesome. Thanks for joining me. So Jason, just so everybody know, Jason is also a real estate coach, and he's my coach from Tom Ferry, which I started coaching about 6 months ago. And I think I'm doing pretty good. He's really guiding me through this real estate, market, and through the things that I need to be working on to better my business and provide better services to my clients. So Jason has played a big role in my recent success. So thank you, Jason. Thanks for being here. We got also Rob Elder coming in from Arizona. And I believe you also do loans in Wyoming. He's a lender in Arizona and Wyoming. How are you, Rob?
I'm doing good. Thank you, Carlos. Happy to be here. I appreciate the invite.
Thank you so much. And Rob, it's one of Jason's preferred lender. All right. So I asked Jason, hey, why don't you bring your go-to man for lending? And he brought Rob. So I'm happy you were able to make it, Rob. And then, of course, we got Katie White with Fairway Mortgage, my preferred lender. Sorry for all the lenders that are watching this, but I'm sorry. But Katie is one of my preferred lenders, right?
Yes.
Awesome. I'm super happy that you're able to make it. I know you're traveling right now on some conferences.
Yes, I'm excited to be here, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you. All right, so this is our panel. These are our guests, and let's kind of start jumping in. We're going to be covering, of course, the real estate market, what we see here from Austin, Texas, what we see from Arizona as well. And then we're going to be hopefully going into some details on some of the lending options for buyers now. Buyers are wondering, what's happening with the market. They're feeling stressed about the rates. Well, hopefully, you can hear about some great options that these lenders are providing for us, and maybe hopefully, be optimistic about this coming year. So let me start going over some presentations here. So I introduce our guest for today. Again, we're going to be talking about the today's market for buyers, okay? A lot of this applies also to sellers, right? Thinking about selling their home. So we can touch up on those as well. But a lot of these kind of relates to the buyers, because a lot of the buyers right now are kind of on hold. Whether should I wait for the market crash? Should I wait for the rates to come down? I'm getting a lot of questions from buyers, right? Also from sellers. Is this a good time to sell? Should I wait for the summer? Should I wait for the spring? So hopefully this webinar, this live, will help answer some of those questions. And of course, I got the realtor from Arizona, and I'm here in Austin, Texas. So we'll compare some of the markets and stats between the two different markets. We'll talk about the lending alternatives, and then we'll leave some room for questions. Okay. So please share if you can. Please go ahead and share this live so that other people could get some good information that we're going to be providing here. So again, we got Jason with 410 Realty, Katie White with Fairway Mortgage, and Rob Elder from the Elder team at Wallach and Volk Mortgage. Is that how you pronounce it, Rob?
Yes, Wallach and Volk. That's correct.
All right. So some people are talking about, let's talk about the market, right? So for buyers, for example. All right. So some people are saying, hey, nobody's really buying a house right now. Well, these are some stats, right, that we received from Freddie Mac. And it basically says that there are 8 houses sold every single minute. All right. So 11, actually, I'm missing a zero there. 11,000 houses sell every single day. All right. If we break down the number of transactions that occur during the whole year, during 2022, there were just over 4 million homes sold. Of course, we divided by 365, we got over over 11,000 every day. Divided by 24 hours, that's 467 every hour, and then basically it comes down to almost 8 homes every minute. The homes are actually selling right now. People have to move. People have to, they get relocated. New jobs, the new family members. The house now they need more space in the homes, so some are downsizing. Anyway, so people have to move, and homes are getting sold in it. Okay. Very quickly, I want to touch up on what happened last year, 2022. From January to December, what happened to the rate? Okay, we started at 322 percentage points on the rate, and then we pretty much ended the year in December at 6.42. That's double the rate, right? So I understand the stress, the situation for the buyers right now. They have experienced all these up and downs, but I mean, at the end of the day, the rates have doubled. There are a lot of programs, a lot of options for buyers right now, and that's why I have brought in, 2 of the lenders from different markets to kind of give us an insight on some of the lending options and some of the opportunities for buyers right now. All right, but yes, here you can see what happened with the rates over 2022. And then let's take a quick look at the number of home sales for last year as well, for 2022 as well. And you can see, compared to the previous years, you can see how many homes sold. Here's the green one. We see that over 5 million homes sold last year. And then I got these stats from Keeping Current Matters, a real estate website that provides lots of really good information to realtors. And they're predicting, they're expecting, for 2023 to have at least, the number of home sales are going to be reduced to 5,390,000, if I'm reading this correctly. So they're expecting less home sales for this year compared to the previous year. All right, so another good stat here is the pending listings. Okay, so this is the number of pending homes. So this is from the year over year. So in January, from 2022 to January of 2021, right, a year prior, we saw 6% less homes going under pending, which is basically under contract. Okay, and then as you can see, as we move on towards the end of last year, the number of the percentage kept falling down. So that means the way I look at this graph is basically every month there were less and less homes going under contract, okay, compared to the previous year, 2021. So this is 2022 compared to previous year, 2021. And that basically makes sense because now from 2021, that was the number of listings, okay, in December of 2021 compared to December of 2022, last year, a month ago. Right? So we can see the number of listings have increased from the year prior. Okay. And again, that's why, the number of pending contracts are less and less and less, because also we're getting more listings. These listings are not able to go under contract. And now we have large number of inventory homes available. Okay. Let's talk about a little bit about the forecast for 2023 from different companies. Okay. So Realtor, I'm very optimistic about the market for 2023. They're forecasting a 5.4% increase in basically in the home prices, right? In equity, not really equity, it's just appreciation. Okay, in appreciation, they're looking at over 5% in appreciation for this year actually. And then we got National Association of Realtors as well. They're predicting a 0.3%. And nobody really knows, guys, okay? We all know nobody really has a crystal ball, all right? But I just want to show you one of the major companies, what the major companies are thinking about this, right? And then we got the banks. We got Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, and Selman. And look at their predictions. If you kind of add up and average all this, the average of all 7 forecasts comes down to 0.1%. So the way I see it is basically the market, home appreciation is going to stay flat for this year. What do you guys think about this? Very interesting graph I see here.
Yeah, and I've even seen another source, I think it was Goldman Sachs, as low as 7% depreciation for the year. So like you said, nobody has a crystal ball. They're all just kind of putting what they think out there. I'm probably on board with flat to maybe a little bit of a depreciation over the course of the year. Like I said, it all depends on your market, right? So we're looking at a national number here. So Phoenix and Austin are going to be hit differently than New York City and San Francisco, right? So it's all going to be very important to watch what's happening locally.
That's what I was going to share.
Right. Go ahead, Katie. Go ahead.
That's what I was going to share too. I think I'm on board with pretty flat as well. And it's really going to depend on the market. Each market is so different.
Yeah, I agree. I agree on the market. It depends, like, Wyoming and versus Arizona. I also look at like houses now that are selling, when they use the appraisers or using the comps, in most neighborhoods over the last couple, 2.5 years, there's been homes that sold at elevated, property values. And so they're still using those comps. They can't make up their own. So I think, the prediction of, I'm a little more optimistic. I think more flat to even a little more appreciation in my opinion. So I'm a little more optimistic, but again, nobody knows.
That's kind of how I feel as well, Rob. This is major companies, right? Major predictions here, but you can see they're all over the place. Nobody really, 5% to minus 5%, right? That's a big gap. But overall, I'm very optimistic as well. I feel that, we're going to see this up and down in the market, but at the end of the year, I'm expecting some appreciation. Just to mention, I mentioned this in previous lives, 184 on average, 184 people move to Austin every single day. So we got all these major companies expanding. Apple just announced as well, they're going to expand their campus here in Austin. We got, of course, Samsung moving into Taylor, Texas, which is basically the Austin MSA, not too far from where I live in Round Rock. And all these companies keep coming to Austin, 184 average. They need a place to stay. So land is limited. And I'm very optimistic. I think we're going to be positive, but who knows? Nobody really expected what happened in the past couple of years. So last year was a little bit of a crazy market to be on. But all right, so let's kind of continue on here. So here's where I need a little bit of help from the lender guys, okay? So I do understand that the panic is starting to subside, okay? So it's kind of, people are less kind of getting used to it, I think. That's the way I see it. People got used to, 8-10% rates, mortgage rates in the past, right? People will get used to these rates. So what do you think about, how do these compare, when you compare the 10-year treasury with the mortgage rates? I know they go hand in hand. What can you say about this, basically?
Do you want to go first,
Katie?
Rob?
Go ahead.
Okay. So obviously it plays into the market quite a bit. And right now what we're seeing is there was a larger gap, and now we're getting closer to where it has been in the past, which is bringing rates down a little bit. We are still on a roller coaster ride, as I'm sure most people are aware of. One day we can be up, the next day we can be down. It's all about following it just right, though. But it seems like the scare has subsided a little bit, and people, it's not jerking as much. We're not moving overnight 200 basis points. So that's helped for sure.
Yeah, in the last, I just seen, it was on Friday. I think Friday, the rates were probably the lowest they've been in the last 4 months. Today maybe tried to teeter-totter up a little bit, not substantial. But at the same time, I just add and I tell everybody, when rates were in the mid twos, obviously it was there for a while and people kind of got used to it, as opposed to what they're at now. But I also remind people that before COVID, good rates were around 4.5. So when you're looking at rates in 5.875 or so now to 6, depending on each individual scenario, it's not so bad, especially when you use additional programs that can help get the rates lower.
I agree.
That's right. And actually, on January 12th, which is, I'm looking here, was last Thursday, last week, the CPI data was released for December. The CPI is the Consumer Price Index for December was released, and it was showing that the inflation rates across the board was dropped to 6.5, I believe, year over year. So it was down from 7.1% a month earlier. So it went from 7.1 to 6.5, reducing the CPI or the inflation, right? That kind of always helps with the rates. So when you said the rates were at the lowest last Friday, that's literally a day after they made the announcement, right? So is that what you saw? You saw, normally when I see this type of news, I hear lenders are getting more applications for mortgages. Is that what you guys see?
Yes. I mean, last week we locked in most people. We also saw the rates. I mean, we got some good improvements that day into the next couple days, and then we had a little bit of a downturn, and today we recovered a little bit, but not quite all the way back where we were.
And I know we're definitely lower on the rate than where we were last November as well. We have made pretty good improvement. I know half a point or maybe a quarter of a point doesn't sound a lot, but it does make a difference. If you're on the fence, if you need to buy a house anyways, might as well, half a point rate, it helps a lot, with the payments. And we'll talk about the payment, and we have a little calculator here to kind of show you what a buy down is, and we'll explain what it means and how it really helps you with the monthly payment. So that's something that we're going to be talking about later today. So make sure that you subscribe, make sure that you follow us on social media. You can just look up our names, and I'm sure you're going to find us there, or websites, or we're all over the place. I mean, these guys are great. They provide lots of information, so make sure you follow them and to get really good tips about real estate. So let's continue on. I am going to go ahead and continue with these graphs. Okay, so let's talk about the market, Jason. All right, so talk about a little bit about Phoenix, Arizona specifically. That's where you're located. What are you seeing on the market?
Yeah, so Carlos is going to put up some stats here. I love the stats, but at the same time, I kind of try and make sense of them. So what does it mean in real life, right? So first of all, just so everyone that hasn't been to Phoenix or knows much about Phoenix knows, Phoenix is an urban sprawl, for lack of a better word. So our MLS data spans about an hour's worth of drive time one end to the other without traffic. So we're talking a very large area, and even some of the surrounding counties as well, depending on if agents are listing there. So when you look at our data, it's going to seem like a high number, at least to a lot of folks that I talk to. But if you see here, monthly sales, this is November's data. We haven't seen December's yet. Usually probably the next couple of days, we'll see that coming out. But 4,700 homes sold. You look at that year over year, that's 44.5% lower than the year before. So definitely a downturn in sales. But as Carlos indicated earlier, on the national scale, it's the same locally. So we got 5,900 new inventory, which is a decrease in inventory year over year. But when you look at total inventory, we're up 92% in total inventory year over year. So that tells you there's a ton of inventory out there. I think Carlos will talk about Austin a little bit and how many months of supply that looks like there. But for us, we went from probably 0.4, 0.5 months of supply at the beginning of maybe last year, and we're now at 4.5 months. So, when I talk to clients and they ask me what's a balanced market look like, it's usually 4 to 6 months of supply on the market. So we're probably in some areas of town, we're still tilted toward the sellers a bit. In other areas of town, we're tilted toward the buyers now. So we're kind of approaching that middle ground. A couple of quick things. Our average new list price is up 8%, but the sales price is only up 2%. So sellers are still kind of testing the market out to see what's really happening out there. They're trying to at least start off trying to get a little bit more for their home still, and maybe realizing as the home sits for a bit that they can't get what they could have gotten maybe a year ago. Average sale price, again, up 2%. Our average sale price is $524, which if you look back, we don't have a chart here for, oh yeah, we do there. You look back at the average sales price from even a year ago. It looks good for us because 2 years ago, pre-COVID, 3 years ago, we were probably at the 375 to 380 mark on that number. Oh. So if you've owned your home for a few years, you're probably doing okay. And even if you've owned your home for a year or two, you're probably doing okay. The one thing I did want to point out, distressed residential properties, everybody talks about crashes and 2008 and all these different things. Distressed properties, even with this shift, are still only about 0.2% of our market. It is 1,000, so it is up year over year. But the reality is most people that own a home now probably have the equity that if they got into a situation where they were going to lose the home, they could sell the home and resolve the situation. So I don't think we're going to see the foreclosure crisis we saw before, at least not in the short term. And then here's our average days on market. That's up 27 days year over year. So that is a big shift. And again, something sellers are having to get used to in terms of, your house doesn't sell by putting out a napkin and a toothpick in your front yard anymore. You have to do some more active marketing. You have to get the word out as wide as you can. And even then, it's still taking a couple of months on average to sell. So those are the stats. I think all in all, Carlos, it's what you were saying on the national side. More inventory, less sales, more days on market, lowering of prices slightly. But even year over year, our prices are still up. And if we stay relatively flat, I do think there's areas of Phoenix specifically. I don't want to get too, detailed here because we got audience from everywhere, but the southeastern areas of town and more of the outlining areas that are already starting to see some of those declines in prices. And they become kind of heavy on the buyer side. So sellers are giving more concessions. We're seeing price adjustments. But as you get into town, into the Phoenix, Tempe, Chandler, Gilbert, East Valley area, we're still seeing, potentially multiple offers on homes. We're still seeing, slight appreciation year over year. So that's Phoenix in a nutshell. I can answer any questions, but that's about as fast as short as I can make it because I'm a talker. So.
All right. It does make sense. Lots of it is similar to Austin, believe it or not. It's very similar to Austin as well. I see the same kind of trajectory that you're seeing as well. So let me talk about Austin market. So I know the graph is a little bit small, but just overall, know that there was still some appreciation from December 2021 to December of last year, 2022. I mean, some areas experienced 10%. There's an area here in Austin that appreciated 100% in 1 year. And then most of the areas are between 2 and 3%, all right? So 5%, 1%. So I will say the average 3 or 4%. But we did see appreciation, from 2021 to 2022, December to December. Here, these stats are provided by the Austin Board of Realtors. And we can see here November stats. Like Jason said, we're behind a month. Maybe in the next week or so, we should be getting the December stats. The January, this month stats are not going to be here until, in some late February. That's when we're going to see the stats for this month. So we're always behind. So we're looking at November's. Look at this. It's just a flat. Now, this is year over year. Okay, so November of 2021 to November 2022, the median sales price remained the same. No changes there. So yes, it did go up, but then it came down, right? And we'll see those in other graphs here. But the idea here is that somebody selling in December, of this past year, compared to 2021, they're basically getting the same money for their house, right? Like we said before, right? Closed sales, there were less homes that were actually closed, right? Less pending homes. The number of days, the average days on inventory went up to 58 days from 36. It went up by 36 days. So big change in the average days on the market. The more inventory we get, the more options the buyers have. Most of the buyers are kind of on pause right now because of the rates and other factors. So no pending homes and more sellers coming on the market as well. That's increasing. So supply and demand is basically causing this average days on the market to be increased. Check this out. From November 2021, the month of inventory was 2.3 compared to last month or 2 months ago, November 2022, we saw a 3.1 months of inventory. So definitely we're in the 3 months. I saw on your stats, Jason, you're above 4, correct? 4.5, 4.6?
4.46, yeah.
4.46. All right. So very similar. So that was the Austin Round Rock MSA. I am here coming to you from Round Rock, Texas, which is about a few minutes drive from Austin. All this is, Austin is part of the Travis County, and we actually saw a little reduction in the average and the median sales price in the Travis County. Okay, the number of days, average days on the market is very similar. Months of inventory, 2.9. So Travis County, where Austin is located, 2 months of inventory compared to Austin Round Rock MSA, that includes more counties, right? That's also Williamson County. And that included, added is 3.1 months of inventory. This is very interesting, okay? So we know the number of, what we're looking at right now is the 5 last years, okay? On the all MLS areas, which means we got the Central Texas MLS, we got the Austin MLS, basically all of these MLS areas, which is from like Waco to, north of San Antonio. All of these areas, Texas, around Austin, all combined, this is what the graphs looks like for the past 5 years. Right now, again, we only have up to November, and you can see the number, definitely way less homes for sold compared to the previous years. What interested to follow here is the orange line, okay? That's what I want you guys to pay attention on. The orange line is basically, that was 2022, okay? That was last year. The blue lines, the light blue and darker blue, those are during the pandemic. That was the past 2 years, 2020 and 2021. The red and green one are pre-pandemic levels. Okay, so what this tells you is that we're actually selling less homes now, or we sold less homes last year in 2022 than pre-pandemic levels, which is the red and the green. All right, so less number of homes sold, but when you look at the sales volume, the actual dollar amount, look at this. We're still, even though we're selling way less homes, all right, less than pre-pandemic, we're still seeing a higher return, right, on the volume, the dollar amount. That's, again, because of the appreciation and the sales price has increased. That's why we see even the dollar amount is still higher than pre-pandemic. These other two lines, that's actually during the pandemic. We saw bigger numbers there. The median sales price, very similar to the average. All right. Look at this. This is last year. Okay. Look at the orange last year compared to the year before. We're actually at we connected lines right there. So that's why we saw from November of 2021 to November of 2022 on one of the previous stats, right? There was a flat increase in appreciation in price, home prices, right? And that's where you see that the lines actually meet. So for a seller right now, I will say Is this a good time to sell? Well, you're still getting way more. I mean, it's like you're listing the house right now, which could be equivalent to what you would have got if you would have listed it, in November of 2021, right? Like you're still looking at the same price. Yes, the prices went up, during March, April, but then they started coming down, right? And if you look at this, the previous few months, you're not going to be able to sell it for the same dollar amount as a few months ago, but overall, you're still selling it at the sales price that it was close to last year, right? So, and it's still way higher than pre-pandemic levels. The pre-pandemic levels, again, is the green and the red. Those are way at the bottom. So people waiting for the market to crash. Some buyers maybe, they're waiting for the market to crash. My question is, do you think it's going to go the orange line? Do you think it's going to go from here all the way to pre-pandemic levels? That's very hard to digest, I guess. I don't really expect that to happen with the market. What do you think, Jason?
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, even with a slight decline, you're not even going to be anywhere near that. You're going to still be flirting with 2021, even on a slight decline. So that's a big jump to a couple $100,000, a few $100,000 to get back to pre-pandemic.
Yeah, that's from 325 to 575. I mean, it's $200,000. It's a lot of money. I don't think we're gonna get to that point. Yes, and then it kind of flattened out. I mean, it keeps going down a little bit, but then it flattened from September to October. It went down a bit. We'll see what December brings. Okay. All right. So we talked about this in the past, right? The number of listings just increased, right? Now we have more listings, more homes for sale than pre-pandemic levels. Pre-pandemic, again, is the green and the red. We are way above pre-pandemic levels on the number of inventory, number of homes for sale, number of listings. And then we look at the months of inventory. What's interesting here is that earlier this year, we started at 0.40 months of inventory. We even went down to 0.30 months of inventory. I mean, that's 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks of inventory. And then we just jumped that to all the way to, I mean, the rates went up and now we have all this inventory. Now we're 3.1 months of inventory. Okay, very interesting to see here. So for a buyer, for all those 184 people moving to Austin every single day, well, you have choices. You have homes to choose from, and as we can see, the number of days on the market has increased. So a lot of negotiations are back. You don't have to do, let's talk about what happened last year, Jason, and you guys, Rob and Katie. I mean, you saw this, right? What percentage of contracts you were getting, right, that had all these all these waivers, right, like the appraisal waivers? I mean, I'm sure like 10 or so. I don't know. What can you tell me? Like, what percentage of contracts that you received had? I mean, and that was us. That was the realtors, right? Suggesting this to our clients to even have a chance, right? But then, I mean, it's a scary situation. A lot of the homes did not appraise. Appraisers were not keeping up with the contracts that we were submitting to them, and a lot of these homes did not appraise. Do you mind elaborating a little bit on this, Katie?
So on ours, I mean, we had 100% in at least that 6-month period that were waiving all their appraisals. They were waiving financing. They waived everything. They were going 50,000 up to, I had one person go 400,000 over list price just because they wanted a house. They were doing everything to try to get that house. Now we have financing days back again. We don't have appraisal waivers, and we're actually getting sellers to pay closing, part of closing costs or help contribute to other financing options available. So it's been quite the shift, which is a great time to buy for sure.
I love actually that happened. Honestly, I did talk, telling my clients, hey, listen, the type of loan that you have is probably not going to have a chance. That FHA down payment assistance is probably not going to do it. I mean, the sellers were so picky. They were going with conventional, 50% down to cash offers only. Everything else, don't even look at it, right? Because they got so many offers. I do like this balanced market way better, where we can actually protect our clients from these type of scenarios where the home doesn't appraise. I mean, I feel way better as a realtor, as a professional. Just make sure that my client is protected throughout the way. I hated those signs when, yes, I mean, one of my clients over 150,000 over, right? Their highest client that I had 90,000 over. That's just insane. You know, Jason, it was that. I'm sure that was something similar in Phoenix, right? Everybody waiving everything, right? All the contingencies.
Yeah, the over list price offers for sure. I think when Katie was talking about 100%, I was going, how is that true? And then I thought about if you combine appraisal waivers with appraisal with, you know, being willing to go X amount over appraised value. So there was some sort of an appraisal, you know, what would you call that? Like a booster, whatever you would call it. That probably got closer to 100%, I would say. I think waivers for us were probably complete waivers, maybe 75, 80% of what the offers I was seeing. But there, almost every offer was at least saying, oh, we'll go 10,000 over the appraised value, or we'll go 20,000 over the appraised value. For me, the biggest gap that I had was 80,000 on a listing that I had. And that was because they had watched that street for years. They wanted that street. So the minute we put the listing up, they came in and said, I don't care what it takes. We want it. $80,000 over the ask price, no appraisal, all that good stuff. So yeah, those days are I think behind us. There's still some competitive areas of town, but those are very, very few and far between. I'm thinking of one in our East Valley that you never see a listing pop up, maybe a few times a year. So something like that, you probably have multiple offers, people still doing those things, but for the most part, they're gone.
Right, Rob, I'm sure you get a lot of those. Now, the way the contracts are structured are definitely different between Jason's and here in Austin, Texas, right? Between Phoenix. Here in Austin is also different to California contracts. We don't do this if then, right? That you see in some of the contracts. We don't do that. We don't do, okay, we'll go whatever 20,000 over appraise, whatever the appraised value is, or 20,000 more. We don't do that in Texas. Just something I wanted to point out.
Well,
Rob?
just to jump in real fast, it's not necessarily 20,000. So whatever it appraises for, I'll give you 20,000 more. It's if it appraises for up to 20,000 over.
Oh, I see.
You know what I'm saying? So if I offer 500,000 and it appraised for 480, I'll still do 500,000. It's not if it goes for 480, I'll give you 20 more. You know, it's not. We do have escalation clauses. I don't know if you did much of that or if you do those in Texas, but
that's what we don't have in Texas.
Yeah, we had clauses that said, "Hey, I'll do 1,000 more than the best offer, up to 15,000 over." You know,
yeah,
so
we don't have those. That's
what
actually
what realtors got sick of those at the end, though. Listing agents didn't want to see them at all. So,
wow,
Rob, I'm sorry I cut you off.
Oh no, no, I doing Wyoming and Arizona, obviously, Jason hit it right on the head. I mean, most everything coming in was over appraisal at some level. Some were, paying 100,000 over. I mean, it was crazy. And going back to Wyoming back in 2008, as opposed to Arizona, the houses were losing by hundreds of thousands in value. Wyoming, I had a townhouse at the time, and it went down $2,500 because Wyoming, particularly, never really experienced the highs and lows. They stay pretty flat when it comes to that. But over the last 2.5 years, there was no difference between there and here. Same thing. People moving from Chicago, or, Illinois, Washington, Oregon, California, were selling, their homes in California for all the money and coming to Wyoming and pay 100,000 over asking, like it's nothing. So yeah, it's good to see where it's at now, where it's people have a chance. I mean, so many people like you guys were helping, and I'm getting on the phone with a listing agent, between the two, the buyer's agent and me, trying to help get our young clients a home, and it was very difficult, but it's good to see that it's more a level playing field.
Yeah, we're so happy that we're not in that situation again. But again, I mean, going back to some of these, look at the months of inventory. So, buyers in today's market, they don't have to do that, right? And we as realtors, we can actually protect our clients better now. Make sure that they have choices. Make sure that they don't get into a house just because they needed a house, right? And whatever the first house that was available, first one that was their offer, accepted their offer, right? We're not in that situation. So super happy that there's a lot of inventory now to choose from. The only downside is the rates right now. Okay, but anyway, so we'll talk about rates in a minute. Again, one of my last stats here is that the number of listings, right? So let's talk about Travis. Okay, Williamson County, that's where Round is. That's where that's where my home is. Travis County, that's where Austin, Texas is. So look at the new listings. Actually, this is the week of January 2nd to the 9th. That week compared to the previous 3 weeks. So compared to the 3 weeks that prior to this, then we saw an increase in listings. So we saw more listings in Travis County. The number of home sales actually reduced by 6% from the prior 3 weeks. 203 homes less that closed. Pending actually went up. In this case, it actually went up in that last 3 weeks to this week, it actually went up by 3%. We did see, and we're looking at price reductions right now, right? So the price reductions in Travis County went up by 14%. Again, more supply, less demand. Now we have all these months of inventory, 3.1 months of inventory as of November of last year. And I mean, again, that's gonna, sellers are realize they're not going to sell their home on the first weekend anymore, right? And then now they're actually doing all these price reductions. That's why it's so important when a listing consulting, listing presentations, it's very important for me to actually make it clear that, okay, once you get that little ball rolling downwards, once you start those price reductions, guess where the offer is going to come in? Again, it's going to come in lower, right? So we don't want to start rolling that little ball downwards, right? We want to price it correctly and stay with that price, and hopefully, we will sell. So that's it for the stats, okay? Hopefully that gives you a pretty good idea about the market compared to the previous 5 years. Now let's start talking about some of the lending alternatives. Rob, what are some of the things that your company is actually providing to buyers in today's market?
One big thing that we offer that is specific to us, of any of our branches in any state, but is called Cash to Win. And it's twofold. One is cash to win on a property that they're looking to purchase. It was real popular when all the cash offers, were buying homes before. But even in today's market, where some sellers, listing agents are kind of reluctant to pre-approvals, because I've seen some that get turned down 2 weeks into it. So they're really reluctant. So cash offers are still very prevalent, to where we can go in. They work with their realtor. They determine market value and what they want to offer. And Wallach & Volk goes in and makes the offer on their behalf. So the offer is coming from Wallach & Volk, and we make a cash offer that's legitimately cash. And then obviously we have that client pre-approved. So we close between 6 and 10 days. The listing agent gets paid. And then we turn around and close on the house with the buyer 2 weeks later. So that's one aspect of it. That is a 1% fee. So we kind of work with the realtor in making offers and kind of incorporate that in. So they're absorbing that fee per se, based on where their offer gets accepted. One of the big things that's coming really popular right now that we're doing, I've done probably 7 in the last 3 months, is on the trailing property. So get a client that finds a house, theirs goes on the market, theirs goes under contract. They have to sell their house to qualify. They want to use the equity to lower payment. And so theirs will go under contract. And then again, a couple weeks into it, they get turned down by their lender, or they walk away for whatever reason, get nervous, an inspection, what have you, then we can come in, Wallach & Volk will come in that situation and offer a cash to win program where we buy their house. We work closely. The realtor gives us comps to make sure that we justify how much we're paying, and give them basically 100% of what they had the house listed at, and get rid of that payment. We escrow back 25% of that until that actually house sells. So the original listing agent now becomes our agent, right? So Wallach & Volk owns that house now. The client gets to use a portion of their equity to put down on the new house. They qualify because they don't have 2 mortgage payments, and they end up with a house that they really want. Downsizing, increasing, however that situation is. And then we work closely with the listing agent, obviously, at that point, and market it accordingly and sell the house. Now, I will say also in that program, we don't, because the escrow, is hanging out there to where the original seller that sold to us can still get funds back, right? They still get that equity back. So we keep them in the loop on offers as well. So if an offer comes in that's less than what we purchased it for, or if there's repairs, then we keep them in the loop so that they know at all times how much of that is going to affect their escrow and how much they're going to get back. So
that sounds like a great program. Yeah, I wonder if we see the same here in Texas. Katie, are there any similar programs here that you're working with?
There's a couple outside programs. Our internal program is just a bridge loan right now. We kind of took away some of the other ones, but that helps with getting the equity to put down on the new one and qualifying them that way.
Okay, do you want to elaborate a little bit more? How does that really work? I guess so that's for us. That's for a buyer, right? That's for a buyer.
Correct. So if they're going to purchase a new home, but say they want to use equity from the home that they're departing, we have an internal bridge loan that can bridge their equity to put down on the new home so they can close on the new home. And, we'll have to look at it to still figure out the sale of their other home if that's still their desire, or if they want to rent out that home, they can rent out that home. Okay.
And for a new home buyer that do not have the equity from a previous home, then I heard you talk about, the 3-2-1 buy down rate programs or the 2-1 buy down rates. Do you mind elaborating a little bit on that?
Yeah. So the most popular one we've been doing, I had 7 this month of them, is the 2-1 buy down. It's kind of been the sweet spot, in the resale market. Instead of doing a price decrease, they can keep the price where it is and contribute and still net the same. So if they contribute, like, say the loan amount is $400,000 and they contribute like $8,900, that will lower the monthly payment by $500 a month for the first year for the client, and then around a little bit more the second year. There is no prepayment penalty for refinancing. They can refinance in that time period, and whatever money is left can go to a principal reduction. So it's not like a permanent buy down where that money's lost. They can use it to reduce it in the future. And right now, anyone we close between now and March 31st, they get a free refinance as well, just anticipating the market, getting better, of course. But we're doing a lot of those because there's more expenses your first year of ownership sometimes, not always. And that just allows them to have more money available. And this is just
hopefully you can see hopefully you can see the screen here. So for the example that you were mentioning, Katie, here with the loan amount. So let's talk about this a little bit more. All right. So this is a calculator, and we can play around with any numbers. We can change this to 450,000. That would be the loan amount. Okay. So, that's
or 4.5 million.
Too many zeros.
That's a nice house, Carlos.
Right.
That's a nice house.
I know.
Very nice house.
There we go. That would be really nice. Okay, so let's say the loan amount is 450. So the price could be 600,000, 700,000, 500,000. I mean, depending on the loan program. We have the conventional, 3% down, 5% down. We have the FHA, and this is still within the limits of the FHA, I believe.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So I mean, it could be anything.
Yeah, and we're even doing them on jumbo loans too. So we're not discounting the jumbo loans either.
Okay, that's great. That's great. So let's take 450 as an example. In today's rate, let's say a 6.125. Let's just, I know we can get it lower to 5%, lower than 6%. That's correct, Katie? Yeah. With some maybe buy down. Could you combine these 2-1 buy down, which is temporary? Could you combine it with a permanent one as well to do an initial buy down and then do this one on top? Could you do that or not?
Yes. And like one that I did earlier yesterday or the day before, they wanted to do just a quarter because they wanted that first year to be at 3.99%, and that worked for their budget. So yes, you can do that. Okay.
All right. So taking this example, all right. So this is what it's going to cost to do this 2-1 buy down. Okay. It's going to cost for $10 to be able to do a 2-1 buy down. What that really means is that your initial payment is actually $27.34 a month, and that's just principal and interest. Okay, we're not taking into account the taxes and insurance. So principal and interest will be $27.34, but actually the first year you're doing 2 rates lower than the 6%. So you're actually getting it at 4.125, right? Mm-hmm. At 4.125, your monthly payment, principal and interest is $21.80. So I mean, right there's almost $600 dollars every month. 500 and over $550 dollars every month that you're saving for the first year. The second year is gonna get jumped up to a 5.125. So basically one percentage rate lower than the initial, than the rate that you obtain when you purchase a property. The one when you purchase a property was 6.125. First year you're getting a temporary buy down of 2 rates, points less, and then you get 1.1 interest rate point percentage less, right? And it goes up to $24.50. And then after the second year, you're actually at $27.34 for the remaining of the loan, right? Katie?
Yeah, that's correct. And you can say rates drop and they are down to 4%. You're like, this is my opportunity. I'm going to refinance. Whatever money is left over out of that $10,000 that wasn't used, you can use that as a principal reduction so you don't lose it, and you can refinance. And there's no prepayment penalty or anything like that.
And that's just keep in mind that this, for the viewers right now, that this $10,000 is actually not coming. It has to come from the seller. It cannot come from the buyer's pocket. Okay, so the seller has to contribute whatever the amount is. I mean, and we can play around with different loan amounts, and this number is going to change, but that amount has to come from the seller. So we as realtors, we have to negotiate the seller to to contribute over $10,000 for my client, the buyer, to be able to do the 3-2 or the 2-1 rate buy down. Is that correct?
And we can do it where the buyer can pay it too. So if they want to split it, but right now we're seeing more of the seller being available to do it, but we can do them buyer paid as well. And we can do a 1-0 buy down to make it cheaper if the buyer is like, I want the lower rate that first year. I have a lot of expenses coming up. I have a car that I'm about to pay off. So I know I'm going to free up that money if it, so they can do it if the seller won't, mm-hmm. But we're seeing a lot of the sellers being able to work with us for sure.
Well, that's the beauty of this market, right? That's the main difference. Last year, buyers right now have a lot of negotiating power. And that's one of the things we're going to be talking about also, the percentage rate in home prices over the last 30 years, I mean, it has increased. Homes have appreciated at 290%. That's a big increase. And typically, I mean, the mortgage time, the term is typically 30 years, right? So you buy now, in 30 years from now, hopefully your home will appreciate by 290%.
Good return.
Yeah, and this is just a quick quote here from the Secretary of Housing. It says, "So be advised, this might be the end of and the one and only window for the next few years to get into this type of market, which is a buyer's market. Remember, as the data shows, the home prices can only go up or normally go up over time, and they always recover from recessions. So I believe for the past." I think I just heard from the past 7 recessions, there was only one recession where the market didn't really recover as well. All the other recessions, typically by the end of the recession, you enter the recession and then let's say it lasts for 6 months, right? By the end of those 6 months, the recession, typically the rates are lower by the time that we exit the recession. So I think we're in a recession right now. I'm hoping by the end of this recession, the market rates, the interest rates are going to be lower here. So I tell my clients in the long term, do you see the prices going lower than if you buy now? Do you see the prices going higher or lower than now? They pretty much all of them say, they're going to be higher than now. So, I mean, you think the prices are going to be higher in 5 years from now? Why try to time the market? Jason, tell me a little bit more about timing the market. What do you talk to you? What type of conversations do you have with your clients, buyers that are trying to time the market?
Well, unless I think Katie said it earlier, unless everybody has a crystal ball, it's kind of impossible. Every seller wants the most money they can get. Every buyer wants the cheapest price they can get. I think, the quote you just had up there, Dave Ramsey said something similar a few months back. He said in the next 5 years, this is probably the best time to buy a house. And everybody kind of shook their head at him. But his point was, it's not going to necessarily get better from here. Even if we dip, it's potentially going to get worse. And I think he said that before the rates went up again, if I remember right. So I think it was 0.75 of a point lower when he said that. So I think he was kind of right on even at that point, that even if you waited a few months, you're going to end up with a 0.75% higher rate. So I would agree. I think timing the market is not something that people can do. And what I tell people now is greed is not a reason to sell a home anymore. And I don't mean to say that in a rude way, but there were people that saw 300 grand in equity and were like, I'm selling my house. I want the money, right? That's not, you can't be greedy. And if you're selling your home now, I think people have to move because they're upsizing, downsizing, relocating, whatever. Homes are going to sell. And I've got sellers that have told me in the past, I need to get this number. I'm not going to sell. And my answer to them is, so if you don't sell today, you're committing to the long haul. Because if we see another, what was that one estimate? 5.1% decrease in value this year. Now you've got 5% more to come back from what we've dropped. So you're committing to at least a few years of recovery, if it doesn't continue to decline. So here's what you can get today. If you don't want to get that today, then you're committing to the long haul. I also wanted to say something real quick, just about something was said earlier with regard to homes that I think you said it, Carlos. People kind of settled on homes a year ago. Whatever home they could get was the home they bought. It might not have what they wanted in it necessarily, but they could get it. What I'm seeing now is I'm having conversations with people that bought a home a year ago. Their home might be decreasing in value right now, but what they're doing is they're flipping it into a rental property. They're buying themselves a new home.
Yeah.
The home they actually want that they can get now, maybe using a buy down program or a cash program like was discussed. And now they've got an investment property that can earn them money, because rents, we didn't even talk about rents, but I do property management as well. Rents all over the country are ridiculous as well. So ridiculous meaning they've appreciated at a ridiculous rate. So you could potentially make money on the house you bought a year ago in rent and then go get your home. So, I've talked to people now, they're like, well, I just bought my house a year ago. It's not worth what it was worth a year ago. It's like, well, okay, let's talk about other ways to increase your wealth. And owning real estate is definitely one of the biggest ways to increase wealth. So
I always recommend my clients, don't sell the house if you don't have to sell it. I mean, I know I'm in the business of selling homes, right? And most realtors will tell you, yeah, sell it. So that's more commission. But I'm actually telling them I own a few rental properties, and if you don't have to sell it, don't sell it. If you can afford the other payment, this one, let it continue being paid by itself. And by the way, Austin 101 Realty does have a property management in-house as well. So yeah, that's something that we're seeing with rents. All right, we're getting closer to the time. Let's just see if we can answer the following questions, guys. We're going to take turns on this. All right, starting with Katie White.
Answering, right? Here we go.
Right.
Ready? Go.
Will the mortgage rates dip below 6% this year in 2023? What do you think, Katie?
I feel like they will. They teetered there. And so I feel like for sure they will. The forecasters
Awesome.
are also saying that, but I'm sure Rob can input on that too.
Yeah, definitely agree. They'll be below 6%. So what does that mean? Buy now, refi later.
Refinance later. Do any of you guys provide free refinances? Because I heard that in the past, a few lenders doing that. I'm just wondering if that's something that you can offer to the buyers.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, free is perception, whether it be our fees, but there's still title and all that kind of stuff.
I mean, there's still title fees, right? They still have to pay title fees, but like loan origination fees and that kind of fees coming from you will probably be
100%.
waived. Awesome.
Just to
All right.
clarify that point, Carlos, I assume they'd have to do the original loan with you guys to get that program, correct? I'm just saying. You said, do you guys do free refis? I don't think either one of them are doing free refis, but if somebody buys the house using your program and then it comes back to refi, is that how it works for both of you? That you would credit them back, or not credit them back, but you wouldn't charge them again? Is that accurate?
Yeah, we're offering that right now. And there's other ways that people have done it in the past before this type of market. They would just call it a no-cost refinance. But in that scenario, it was a little bit more built in. Right now, it's really free. So.
All right, that's great. So, yeah, why wait, right? Negotiate on prices right now. I just went on the contract earlier, or late last week. And I mean, it was below asking. All the offers I'm submitting are below asking, and they're getting accepted. So why not, continue the trend? Buyers, now is your chance. Will the housing market crash in 2023, Rob?
Absolutely not. There's no variables of economy, infrastructure, anything of the above that would ever indicate that that's ever going to happen. So, and also to add on what you were saying, almost every appraisal that I'm getting right now are coming in over contract.
Me too.
So, yeah.
Walking into a house with equity is a beautiful thing, isn't it?
And you will contribute that to just having the history. Everybody was priced so high. Now you're buying the homes here. Actually, the tax appraisals, I know they went up like crazy on my investment properties, which, by the way, I had to pass that on to my tenants, right? Because property taxes went up, everything went up, insurance went up. I'm not going to eat the cost, right? I pass it on to the tenants. And that's why, like Jason said, tenants are suffering from higher rents over the past few years. But what you say, because the prices were so high and now we're buying low, I mean, they have the instant equity, right? That's what you mean, Rob?
Yeah, I mean, like I was mentioning earlier, in most neighborhoods, in most areas, in most states, obviously there's different pockets that it's not going to stand true. But when I'm selling a house in my neighborhood, the appraisers have to use comps, sold properties within a certain distance of that house. And with all the home sales that has happened over the last 2.5, 3 years, I mean, those values can't come down. I mean, because they have to use sold values. They have to use actual comps. I mean, they're just nothing is built in the market as far as the atmosphere of mortgage and real estate that will ever indicate currently that there's going to be a crash. I mean, also, the mortgages themselves since 2008, 2009 have been changed dramatically as far as compliance and regulation. So, and I also wanted to mention that on the 2-1 or 3-2-1 buy down, because this has come up too. People have to qualify at the standard rate. So they're not qualifying at a lower rate. So unlike before 2008, when people were on interest only and all this stuff, or a balloon, when their payment jumped up, they didn't qualify and they couldn't afford it. Houses were being foreclosed on. That's not the case. That's not the scenario. And, it's not going to be. So
we are definitely not in the same market as 2008. We're definitely not in the same market. All right, Jason, you're up. Are we in a buyer's market?
In Phoenix, depends on where you're at, but we are probably right in the middle of a balanced market, in my opinion. So, like I said, in here, at least some of the outlying areas, and I'm sure it's true around the country, that the further you get from the city, probably you have a little bit more power as a buyer. So I guess my fast answer is no, probably a balanced market, but depends on where you're looking.
And I agree with that. 3 to 4 months, it is a balanced market. We're not seeing the 0.6, 0.4 months of inventory that I show you in one of the graphs earlier last year, a year ago. We're now seeing 3.1, 3.2 in your market, Jason, over 4%. That's still balanced. That's a good market. Typically they say over 6 months of inventory, that will be a buyer's market. Anything less than that, balance. And then we have the seller's market, which that's where we were last year. So we're definitely not in a buyer's market, but it feels like a buyer's market just because compared to half a month of inventory, now we have 3.5 months or 4 months of inventory. It definitely feels like a buyer's market. So I am excited. I don't know why buyers are waiting still. I don't know what they're waiting on, but that's a different story. So that leads me to the next question. Is it a good idea to buy this year? I think it is. I think I'm going to answer that. I think it is a good idea. It makes it a lot easier for me to be able to get offers accepted, to negotiate on pricing, then negotiate on repairs, then negotiate on the appraisal. I mean, there's 3 stages of negotiations right now, where before I had pretty much none, right? I was like, just get me the house. And that's, I'm an extension of my buyers, right? That's how my buyers were feeling. It's not me. I already have a house, but it was my buyers feeling that way, and that they pass on that sentiment, and I had to get them into a house. They needed a house. So is it a good time to buy this year? I think yes. The rates, they're high, but when you look at the average rates over the history of rates, it's not that bad, right, Rob and Katie? When you look at, yes, it's bad compared to last year, at the beginning of last year, but it's not bad compared to the history of the rates.
Right. And I was going to say, like, those rates we had never seen before. So now I think things are more balanced out too. If they're not inflated, paying $400,000 more, the actual payment on the house, even though the rate is higher, isn't as high as they think it is either.
Yeah, it's really kind of unfair to compare rates even now to the last 2.5 years, because historically they've never been that low. Probably shouldn't have gotten that low. And if you are able to take advantage of it, great. But at the same time, you look at a comparison in the last 2.5 years where you're paying $50,000 to $70,000, if not more, over, compared to now, where in some cases you're able to buy the house for $50,000 less than asking. That's $100,000 turnaround. So you put that into your calculator and the difference in rates and see where you're at. Would you rather pay a little higher rate but owe $100,000 less on the house? And based on history, rates are going to come back down and then refinance, and now you're even in a better situation. So yeah, absolutely, it's a great time to buy right now.
And
Jump in real
something that
quick,
I
if
like.
could.
Yes, Jason,
Sorry,
go
Carlo.
ahead.
I was
Go
just
ahead.
going to say, I agree. It's a great time to buy. I think I wanted to touch on just the professionals that folks choose to work with, and knowing how many people, and I'm not going to knock people that are newer to the business. That's not my goal. But the people that don't surround themselves with people who have gone through pre-2019 real estate are working with folks that haven't ever navigated these things. So from a lender perspective, lenders that have never seen a 6% rate before and are going like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? From a realtor perspective, realtors who don't know how to negotiate in a balanced market. Because guess what? Balanced means balanced. The buyer asks for something, the seller offers something back. There's negotiation. So even though it looks like, oh, buyers are getting all these things from sellers right now, that's how it works. You offer something, the seller offers something back, and then you figure something out that works for both of you. So that's the difference. And I think choosing a professional that has gone through it, or at minimum has surrounded themselves with people on their team or in their circles that have gone through it, is even more crucial now than it's ever been. That's my opinion.
And I 100% agree on this. I'm currently on a 3 to 4 day negotiation point right now. I'm on a contract on this home, and I mean, we've been negotiating for 4 days. It's not that easy. I mean, it's not just, oh yeah, buyers can get anything right now. That's not the case. That's not the case. We offer and we ask, but then there's another agent on the other side, right? And he's advising their clients, and they're coming back to us with something else, something different. So that's where negotiations, take place. And that's why it's important, like Jason said, to work with a realtor that's knowledgeable and has experience to negotiate in this market and any market really. And just to add to the new buyers, I mean, a new buyer has never had a house, a first-time home buyer, right? They don't know what the rate is like to be 2.5%, like it was, when I refinanced all my homes at 5%. They don't know that. They don't know any better, right? They've never been in that market. What are you complaining about? Like there's been times when, I mean, the rates were over 8%, right? 10% over 8%. When I purchased my first home, was 5-point-something%, right? I didn't know any better. I mean, you buy a house because you need a house, because you're financially stable and you can afford the payment. You can afford not the particular sales price. You can afford the payment. And it depends on buyer to buyer, right? Not everybody's at the same. So you buy whenever it's a good time for you to buy. Forget the rates. Rates are gonna go up and down all the time, and you will have a chance to refinance in the future. You're not stuck for 30 years, right? You marry the house, you take the interest rate, right? That everybody says that. So, I mean, if you never experience a 2.5 interest rate, don't wait for that again. It's probably not going to happen anytime soon. Right, Katie?
Yeah, I don't think that will happen. And that means I'm really old, because my first house was over 8%, I think. But I think it's really important just to find what works for you. And, you get to write off mortgage interest, talk to your CPA, but that's also, you're paying less for the house now. You have more write-offs. It's a win-win.
I'll add also to the first-time buyers real quick, if you don't mind, and nothing against property management or landlords and all that, but, marry the house, date the rate, divorce the landlord, because what I tell them, what interest rate are you paying right now?
Don't do that.
And I get it. There's always going to be people that have to rent, right? So you're safe. But at the same time, I've used the complaint about the rate. I ask them, well, what rate are you paying right now? And they're, well, I'm not paying any interest. I'm like, well, yeah, you are. You're paying 100%.
100%.
So, I mean, 7%, 6.5%, that's not so bad.
I think the thing for us, because we do both, it is a balancing act between supporting our property management owners and helping buyers get into homes. And I think it just comes down, like Carlos said, if it's something you want to do and it's best for your situation, we're going to find you the contractually legal way to move from renter to buyer, right? So, when you say divorce the landlord, I kind of went, whoa, but then I thought, no, fulfill your lease and then move on is kind of the message if it's the right time for you.
Yeah, everybody's scenario is different,
All right. And then, so lastly, are the house prices expected to keep going down, right? I did touch upon this a little bit with one of the graphs where, nobody really knows. Nobody really knows. And I'm not going to try to predict this, but I am very optimistic. I think they will keep going down for the next few months. I'm just thinking. I feel the rates are eventually going to go even lower. And the market, normally the summer, the spring market, the summer market, that's typically a really good time. As you saw in the graphs that I show, typically the market goes up starting in March, right? It starts going up and then it starts kind of winding down in October, November, December, and then it starts picking up again. So the normal real estate market goes like that. I think at that point, we'll see appreciation. I mean, I'm not trying to time the market. I'm not buying a house to try to sell it in a few months or try to sell it next year. Buying a house, again, most buyers right now, I mean, the average years that they stay in a house is what, 7 years or so? I think 7 to 9 years now. So they're staying longer in their homes. So you're buying a house for the long term, right? You're not buying a house to sell it next year. So do you think prices, again, my question is, do you think prices are going to be higher next year? How about 5 years from now, right? So I think, again, I mean, that goes to time in the market. So I don't want to hash on the same thing over and over, but don't try to time the market. I think you buy because it's a good time for you. And don't worry too much about the rates. They will change. I know. I mean, we see that every day, right, Katie? We see rates going up and down every day. I mean, nobody can control that. That's outside of your control. But the decisions that you make now, I tell my clients, you're going to be really happy 5 years from now when you call me to the house. I can pretty much tell you that. More than likely, you're going to be really happy. So anything, all right, let's finish this up. Let's wrap this up. Any last words, Jason?
I think, like you said, we're just going to say the same thing over and over again. So I don't have many last words. I just would key in on the professional aspect of it and choosing the right person on the mortgage side and on the real estate side to work with to represent your interests right now is more important than ever. We all want to help somebody we know with a commission, obviously, but is it time, is it time to sacrifice your own best interest to help somebody else in that regard? So that's my biggest thing. I see people picking up people just because, my friend from elementary school is a realtor. I got to work with them. It's like, well, they've been in the business 2 weeks and they don't even have their business cards yet. So is that really the best option? That's my only point.
All right, Katie?
I would piggyback on that, making sure you have, working with someone that has your best interest in mind too, and really has been in the market, or like you said, and prior, has surrounded themselves, because I think people tend to believe what Google tells them or their friend down the street tells them, but that's not the reality for their current situation. So it's important to get the true facts from the right sources.
All right, Rob, any last words?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Yeah. I'm always telling people not to, I talked to somebody today, don't listen to the neighbor, that's a different profession, or an accountant, plumber, what have you, listen to somebody that does it day in, day out, and does take their client's best interest at heart, whether it's, like Jason says, at their own expense. We've all done it, that are in this business, and we do it for the greater good. And I'm a huge proponent of that. I do it every day. And lastly, I don't know if anybody knows Todd Duncan, but I don't know if you can see that.
Okay.
Rumor is we're in a recession, but I'm not participating. So there you have it. I'm optimistic. The glass is half full, never half empty. So let's find a way.
I like that. All right. And again, I'm Carlos Cruz. One of my biggest tips for buyers and sellers right now will be to work with a realtor that's really involved and is got the network, the teamwork. We need lenders, we need title reps, we need inspectors, we need plumbers, roofers. Work with a realtor that's in a networking group. That's how I met, Katie White through a networking group. And I met so many other great professionals that I can refer my clients to. So I think when you work with people like that are always willing to extend their relationships and keep learning, I don't want to say too much, but I do have 15 certifications in real estate, right? So that tells me I obtained most of my certifications during the market when it was so easy to get a client, like sell a house. It was so easy. That's why so many new realtors join the board of realtors here locally in Austin, right? We saw so many. We have up to like 18,000 realtors here. All right, between Williamson County and Travis County, that's 18,000 realtors. We saw an influx of realtors joining this that are not used to working, in other markets, and that probably didn't invest a lot of their time in education. So to me, it's a big thing. Somebody that's still taking 2 or 3 certifications every year, even though when they don't really needed it. In my opinion, that says a lot. And I obtained most of my certifications during the easy market. So keep working hard, everybody. Thank you so much for being here with me. It was a pleasure. Thank you for your insights and your knowledge, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you.